From the chaos of the 19th century in Europe, there's another work that to me defines perfection. Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in C minor. Beethoven couldn't hear the music except in his imagination. He changed passages 20 or more times for more than 4 years. He rewrote the finale 3 times. He became deaf at the age of 26. To understand his affliction, think of a painter who is unable to see. In his testament, written in 1802 but not discovered until his death 25 years later, he wrote, "For 6 years I've been compelled to face a lasting malady. How could I admit my infirmity in the one sense that ought to be more perfect in me than in others? I wanted to end my life. It was only my art that held me back. But it's impossible to leave the world until I brought forth all that I felt was in me." 20 years later, he started composing the Fifth Symphony, 2 years later. First performed in 1808 in Vienna. Beethoven conducted it himself from the middle of the orchestra, in front of the brass section. He couldn't hear a note that was played. The performance is generally considered a disaster. It was freezing cold in the concert hall. The 4-hour-long program included the premiere of his Sixth Symphony, as well as a piano concerto, the choral fantasia, and other pieces. He was paid 100 guilders for the entire program. The orchestra had only one rehearsal and played badly. They were so frustrated by Beethoven's style of conducting, they refused to talk to him. The Fifth Symphony begins with 4 notes, 3 quick G's and a long E flat, the best-known musical phrase of all time, followed by 500 measures in 4 movements. From passion to joy to the sublime, it lasts only 30 minutes that changed the course of Western music. The masterpiece that led to my becoming a filmmaker is Orson Welles' film, Citizen Kane. I first saw it when I was 20 years old and had no clear idea of what I wanted to do with my life. At the suggestion of a friend, I saw it in a small revival cinema in Chicago on an early Saturday afternoon. I watched it 5 consecutive times that day, from noon to midnight. Since then, I've seen it more than 100 times, and I continue to draw inspiration from it. It's as close to perfection as I've seen in terms of storytelling on film, and it remains a radical departure from the accepted practices of filmmaking. Citizen Kane was consciously experimental and resulted in many innovations, examining the nature of truth and memory. It's the culmination of everything that preceded it in cinema while pointing the way to the future. It has the lasting impact of a great novel. The film begins with the death of a larger-than-life character, followed by a search for the meaning of his life, seen from multiple perspectives. It's a kind of detective story and a meditation on what Christ said to his apostles. What shall it profit a man to gain the whole world if he loses his own soul? The deep mystery at its core is revealed only to the audience, never to the other characters in the story. Orson Welles was 25 years old when he co-wrote, directed, and played the leading role in Citizen Kane. It was his first film, and he never came close to this achievement again. Nobody has. In the factory system that is Hollywood, he created a work of stunning brilliance and originality. But the studios were not in the business of challenging audiences, only providing pure entertainment. Audiences at that time weren't interested. It was a box office failure. But every film that followed it has in some way been affected by it. Citizen Kane is now studied in universities by scholars and historians. Would Wells be pleased by this? I'm not sure. His film was meant to be experienced on a big screen. Its message to aspiring filmmakers is break the rules. Make your own Citizen Kane. When we think of perfection in art, your own Leonardo, the court painter of Milan, is probably the artist who first comes to mind. But he produced only 15 paintings, some in an imperfect state, unfinished, and his fresco, The Last Supper, began to self-destruct right after he finished it. But artists create something where there's nothing. Before Da Vinci's painting of The Last Supper, there was nothing but a blank wall in a monastery. The great artists don't seek an ideal world or a perfect utopia. Their purpose is not to mirror life, but to shape it according to their own visions. Beethoven, Da Vinci, Orson Welles, and Vermeer achieved perfection despite, or perhaps because, of the imperfection of their own lives. Gracias.